Why Wasn't It Better? I am your host, Patrick Darms.
And your co-host, Anton Paras.
And we have a return guest.
Yeah, it's Zion.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. This is pretty cool.
We are glad to have you back. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, hasn't it? Well, when did we do the last one was a while ago.
It was
yeah.
A couple seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was like right before the Oscars or something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think we recorded that sometime in late January-ish.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we had to have you back. We had you regularly scheduled to appear in this season's season finale when we cover Harry Potter. But Zion and I, we were chatting, and we talked about doing a new in-theater movie. We didn't get the scheduling right for Inside Out 2, but I mentioned to you that we were going to do Twisters, and you were like, I've never seen the first one, but hell, I'll do it.
Yeah, yes, sir. And the first one,
I apologize that I made you watch it.
The first one hit you like a tornado, and this one hit you like a tornado of emotion.
So this second one was actually more palatable. I had less issues with this second one than the first one. The first one, like the amount of problems I had with that movie, everything and everyone involved genuinely pissed me off.
I agree with you, and I said it before, but I think I'm in the minority on this, especially for folks my age. A lot of millennials love the original Twister. I never did. I always thought it was cheesy. I respect it for what it did for special effects in its time, but it's never a movie that I love.
Oh, no.
It is not in my top tier 90s movies because there's a lot of 90s movies that are cheesy that still end up, having a nice soft spot in my heart. But the first Twister, cool special effects, but it's definitely aged a bit.
Aged a lot, man. Like, I didn't even know Dodge made Caravans still. I had to look that up and see if those vehicles were still in production, dude.
Do they still make them?
You know what? I believe they do.
I mean, you'll see them on the road, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. They are rolling. I just can't see that.
You can thank the first Twister for that.
Yeah,
So,
that advertising was at work.
If you were going to rate the first Twister on like the Fujita scale, Zion, what do you think you'd give it?
That is a very interesting question. Ask Anton and circle back around to me.
I mean, it was pretty devastating, so maybe an F3. Like, I know an F4 makes sense with how devastating it is. Is an F5 a thing?
Dang.
Has anyone ever seen an F5? What would that be like? Only one of us has.
That's
Oh my gosh.
Lord. I
Got
would
a
probably
Devastating opening, though, for the movie. The first Twister.
Yeah, rewatching the first one the other week. Man, her dad was a dumbass.
Yeah.
First of all, you live in Tornado Alley. Fixed a lock on the tornado shelter thing. And then, did you notice how little Helen Hunt and her mom, and I guess with the dog with them, they were just in the back of the shelter and like they didn't get sucked away. So it's like, just go to the back.
Angle thing, caught some wind, just some bad luck.
He wasn't thinking.
But yeah, in the 90s, you're not getting footage of people getting caught up in tornadoes. So I guess people were all about it in that film.
Very memorable beginning. I'll say that.
That was the one thing they got right. It really got your attention.
Versus this opening, it just kind of clears out the Scooby-Doo gang.
That's a
Yeah.
funny-
I got to, you know what? I'll save my thoughts on that for when we actually get into this.
All I'm saying is they were just missing Scooby-Doo and some Scooby snacks, and they were in a van.
They were in a van.
I wonder what the mystery would have been.
I have something
tornado?
we could do on that. I have an idea for the sequel, for Twister 3.
They don't need to do a third one.
I have a good idea for them, and it's based on historical evidence.
Oh man, Godzilla meets Twister. You know they're both owned by Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah, a Twister becomes a new kaiju in the next like Kong versus Godzilla movie.
Telling you.
Is there a Twister in that movie?
No, but we could totally see King Kong punch one in the face if Twisters have faces.
I think they do. I think this film makes it clear. There's fire tornadoes in this one.
Yeah, there is.
But look, before we get into the actual discussion, I want to give Zion the opportunity. When we last spoke to you on the Oppenheimer episode, you were about to release your cookbook, and now that it's out, I wanted to let you talk about it a little bit. How's it doing?
So the cookbook is actually doing really well. I got some other projects that I am working on. The publisher actually last week reached out and they were like, "Hey, this I wouldn't say that it is because it's a smaller publishing house, but they were like, we wouldn't say that it's the best selling cookbook, but it is selling pretty well. We've only done this a few times, but we wanted to see if maybe you wanted to do like a special edition of your cookbook where you just go in and add like some more stuff and make it like more personable, and we'll sell it for like a few months and then just sort of discontinue it." So I'm like, sure, let's do it. So we're gonna get the ball rolling on that.
And just for any of our first time listeners who may not have heard, can you please tell us the title and where they can get the book?
Yeah, so I'll give all the links and stuff to Patrick again, but the book is called Delicious Not Suspicious, and it's from a smaller publication called Found, and they're based out of the UK. So I guess the good thing about it is they're the only, book distributor named Found. So it kind of works out.
All right, fantastic. Well, you heard it, listeners. Make sure to share which recipes you end up having as your favorites from the book.
Yeah,
Well, that's awesome, Zion. We're very happy for you.
thank you.
Well, I think without further ado, we can get into this disaster movie.
Oh boy.
A new movie, Anton. The second new movie we did this season.
These are fun.
Yeah. It's going to be something we're going to try to do every season. Logistically, it's not something we can do regularly, but it is definitely a lot of fun to do these new movies.
For each one, I end up recording at like 6 a.m. I don't know if that's just a trend, but...
Do you like the 6 a.m. recording?
I don't mind them. I'm usually up by this time anyway. I just hope that I have the right energy when I come to recording.
I think you do. I personally would rather record early in the morning than late at night.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, here we go. Twisters. Kate Carter is a former storm chaser who is lured back into the field by a friend to test a groundbreaking new tornado tracking system. She crosses paths with Tyler Owens, a social media superstar storm chaser. As terrifying phenomena never seen before begin to surface, they wind up in the paths of multiple storm systems in Oklahoma. Chase, ride, survive. Twisters was released on July 19th, 2024 by Universal Pictures, Warner Brothers Pictures, Amblin Entertainment, and the Kennedy Marshall Company. Directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Screenplay by Mark L. Smith with an additional story credit for Joseph Kaczynski. The screenplay is based on characters created by Michael Crichton and Anne Marie Martin, starring Daisy Edgar Jones, Glenn Powell, Anthony Ramos, Maura Tierney, Brandon Pereira, and Sasha Lane. The budget is $155 million, and as of this recording, it has made $74 million at the box office. So why was this movie chosen? Well, we were hinting at this earlier in the discussion, right? There is a ton of nostalgia for the original Twister. It was a very big deal upon its release in 1996. And even though I don't really like it, I admit that it is a pop culture icon of that era. If you watch it now, and Zion, I'd be curious to hear your perspective on this. You had never seen it before.
Oh no.
Do you understand why it was a big deal then?
Yeah, kinda. So Twisters,
Yep.
so that would have been what, like a year or so. What did Titanic come out 1998 or 1997?
December 97.
Yeah, so that was about, let's say, just about a year before Titanic. So I think this was like one of, and I could be completely wrong on this, but one of the first like special effects spectacles like of the 90s. So I could see why, well, no, there was Jurassic Park, but I could see why like it was a big deal. Me personally, I guess me being a little bit younger than everybody here on the podcast, there's been like 50 movies of this caliber that came out in my generation. So it's like watching all of those and then watching this is just sort of like, this belongs at the $5 bin and Dollar Tree. This sucks. It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the effects part of it, though. Like, this was a film. The way I would describe it is this was years before YouTube. So unless you saw a tornado in real life or you saw one on like the Weather Channel, this was the first time that you could actually watch something and really get the, like, I guess you could say, experience of a tornado on screen.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It was not something that had ever really been captured on film before, just because of the difficulty in actually filming one in real life. So the digital effects were certainly groundbreaking for the time.
Oh yeah, some of them held up for the most part. Now a lot of them aged out, but like the opening scene, they did hold up for the most part.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and Hollywood loves a disaster film, so especially having a big star at the time, Helen Hunt, it was poised for success. And like Patrick mentioned, not having our phones at the ready to capture any tornado going on in the Midwest, this was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I would never watch it again, but I could see why so many people do cherish it. I was actually on Reddit earlier this morning just trying to like gauge reviews for the film, and there were so many people talking about I love the original and they actually got this one right, and I'm just shocked at how many people genuinely love this thing. I I don't get it.
it's nostalgia.
It's nostalgia, and again, I can see the authentic, genuine excitement for. Well, we got to say this: there were great special effects, especially for its
Yes,
time.
yes.
And we'll speak more into the production of Twisters, but I think you can really look at both films for having a strong appreciation for that craft of making great effects.
Absolutely.
On the same vein as the special effects things, one of the things I think the best thing about the original film, which does hold up, incredible movie if you have a good surround system. It's a
The
great sound
sound, yeah.
effects movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I didn't like it, but I probably saw it, I don't know, 50 times every time it was on TV. It was just a movie that it was on TV it was on cable so much back in the day.
Oh yeah, this is one of
Oh
our
yeah.
good old fashioned TNT films.
You
Yes.
took the words right out of my mouth. I was TNT, 3 o'clock p.m. That's exactly what this movie
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, it was me watching Saturday morning cartoons and then flipping on to see this or Con Air.
Con Air. Oh, what a riot.
Don't forget Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah, it was also.
We're going to cover that at some point. We just covered the old Pearl Harbor movie, Tora Tora Tora,
Oh,
which is
Which-
an
which is a-
infinitely better movie than the Michael Bay one.
That's a great movie.
Great
not the
movie.
Not the Michael Bay one. Say
Nope.
that right now.
No,
Not hiding that.
not a fan.
oh Lord.
Is anyone a fan of the Michael Bay Pearl Harbor movie?
I've
You
never
know,
seen it.
I think, Pat, we've learned there's always going to be dozens of fans for anything.
I know you can go on some corner of the internet and find people who think it's a masterpiece, but like, do you know anyone that likes the Michael Bay Pearl Harbor? Because I don't.
Personally, no, but as we say this, I can hear them just sitting up and saying someone's badmouthed this film.
You're wrong. It's better than Titanic.
No, that's some disrespectful stuff. I wouldn't even.
It's
That'll
ultimate.
cause a fight right there because I wouldn't even. No.
Well, Zion, we've talked about the certain person that we both know who's never seen Titanic and who needs to.
Oh yeah, he'll probably listen to this.
Oh, he will. He
I
definitely
confronted
will.
him about it. I did. He started laughing. He's like, "Oh, he told you." I'm like, "Yeah, he told me."
Yeah. When he told me that, I was like, what? You've never seen Titanic? He's like, no, I just never wanted to watch it. I'm like, you need to. You're missing out.
That's like the one movie I thought everybody had seen. It's like The Wizard of Oz and then Titanic. Those are like two movies that I just think everybody has seen at least once.
I think
thought the
everyone,
same.
for me, that film's The Lion King. I think everyone's seen that at least once.
See?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, even something with the mass appeal of like Star Wars or more recently, like what's the Avengers Endgame is like the biggest movie of the past 20 years, right? Maybe that or Avatar.
Yeah.
But there's still like huge segments of the population that have no interest in Avengers Endgame. But something like Titanic, my grandparents saw that, my parents saw that, everyone my age. It was like, yeah, it had a very multi-generational appeal to it.
Yeah,
Man,
it's a great equalizer, right? Everyone wants to see that.
Except for
I'm
one
telling
person.
you, because it's part romance film and then you got the disaster going on. I stumbled on it. We had that giant VHS set that everybody had.
The two tapes.
The two tapes.
I'm telling you, but the messed up part was I saw tape one. I mean, not tape one, tape two before I saw tape one.
Oh no!
So you went in on the wreckage.
Doesn't the
and
first
then
tape end when they hit the iceberg?
exactly where it ends.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that for like a year later. It was crazy.
Yeah, so you start right at the wreckage. Oh, that's.
You're like,
And
man,
it was good too. I was like, man, I
Yeah.
can watch this every day. This is exciting.
The last hour of Titanic, I would put up against any movie ever.
Yeah, that's a good
It's some of the
heavyweight
best
contender.
stuff I've ever seen in a movie. It's riveting.
I'm telling
Emotional,
you.
exciting, pacing, acting. It's great.
James Cameron.
But we're not talking about Titanic today. We got
No,
some twisters going on. We got to tame some tornadoes.
we do. This is a movie I feel like James Cameron could have made.
Yeah.
There is a lot of hype for this sequel. It's definitely, they are playing up the nostalgia factor, and I expect this movie to make a lot of money. I kind of hope it does too, because as much as I was just ragging on the first film, I did not hate this film. I
Yep.
did not feel that my time was wasted going to the theater and watching this.
Oh no.
And we've talked about disaster movies a lot on the podcast, and this felt like it followed a lot of similar disaster story beats, but at the same time still decided to be its own film.
This is what you would call a legacy sequel, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a real sequel at all in any sense of the word, which we'll get into a little bit more. But these are becoming increasingly more popular. Top Gun Maverick, obviously a couple years ago, did enormously well. Anton, I know you haven't seen it yet, but the new Beverly Hills Cop
Mm-hmm.
on Netflix, I thought it was a lot of fun. I really liked it. I was pleasantly surprised by it.
There's been a lot of sequels in 2024, let alone just in the past decade. I mean, we talked about Inside Out 2. People will probably see a lot of posters for A Quiet Place Day 1. Just this week, Deadpool and Wolverine's going to be coming out in theaters.
Oh god.
Yeah, so there's a lot of
Yeah, ugh.
sequels in 2024.
Later this year, we're getting two legacy sequels that I don't know how they're going to do. Beetlejuice,
But
and then Gladiator 2.
who asked for that? I like, I genuinely would like to talk to some of these executives and just say to them, the math ain't mathing. Who wants this?
I don't know what to think, because I didn't think the Top Gun sequel would be good, and I loved it. So I don't know.
I
But I
mean,
know what you mean. Like, Gladiator
Yeah.
2 was in development hell for a long time. I remember hearing rumors about a Gladiator sequel in like the late 2000s, and I remember thinking, like, that's obviously ridiculous. Maximus dies at the end of that movie. Like, how could they make a sequel to that? And I guess it's, again, the legacy sequel thing, where it's not really gonna be a sequel to the story from the first one.
That's kind of what I was thinking, like, because I've, at the beginning of this year, I had never seen the original Twister, but I knew what it was. Like, it's one of those things that,
Right.
like, you see, as you're browsing the internet or whatever, but you never watched it. I saw the Super Bowl ad, and the first question I asked to myself was, who asked for this? But, when the movie came out, I saw it, and I enjoyed it. I was like, okay, so it might be one of those things. I just want the industry to take more creative liberties, but that's another conversation for another
no,
day.
the industry wants to give us Moana 2, which we can look forward to in Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and then 2 years later, they're doing like a live action remake of Moana.
Well,
Of course they are.
we gotta wait, because of course we have to get Mufasa the Lion King coming out in December.
See, they can kiss my ass. Like, that Lion King remake, I would love to do that episode if y'all haven't already done it.
Oh, we are going to do that. You want to be on that one?
Oh, I'll sign up now.
We'll
Throw
record
me
it.
in, coach.
We'll record
Oh,
it someday.
I couldn't stand that remake.
It was a travesty.
It's just, there's a difference between the sequels that we're talking about and just a blatant cash grab remake like that. There was no originality whatsoever.
I hate that it made so much money.
I know. I hate that there's kids out there who have probably seen that and not the original.
That bothers me. But
They
you know
don't-
what I
yeah.
noticed? A lot of kids, they don't really like hand-drawn animation. Like the kids today, like they can't
It's a
stand it.
shame.
I'm like, oh god, but Twisters.
Twisters.
Twisters. Here
Let's
we
do
go.
the production history of this. Bill Paxton had originally tried to get a Twister sequel made for years. After seeing success as the director of films like Frailty, Paxton wanted to direct a modernized retelling of the 1925 tri-state tornado that took the lives of 751 people, and would focus on one single tornado that travels through several states. Now, with the help of producer James Cameron, who also wanted to have the film with an R rating and maintain a realistic depiction of the damages that real tornadoes caused, he planned for it to be shot in 3D. And at one point, the film had an unofficial scheduled release date for the summer of 2012 under the name Twister 3D, but it was ultimately canceled due to budgetary concerns, and years later, Paxton's untimely death in 2017. Back in 2020, a Twister remake was announced, with Joseph Kosinski in early negotiations to serve as both writer and director. Frank Marshall would serve as one of the producers. Joseph Kosinski, of course, is noteworthy for directing, I think, two of the better legacy sequels ever made. He made Tron Legacy and, of course, Top Gun Maverick.
Yes.
So That would have been cool to see him direct this. Helen Hunt expressed an interest in writing and directing a sequel, which Universal Pictures promptly rejected, because of course they did. After several delays, Kaczynski left the project, but in October of 2022, Twisters was officially announced to be in the works with a script written by Mark L. Smith. And I did find a tweet from around that time that sort of addresses a question that I had about this film that we can get into later. The tweet says, quote, "The Twister sequel Twisters will follow the daughter of Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton's characters as she catches the storm-chasing bug her parents had," end quote. Joseph Kaczynski contributed enough to the story that he actually received an official credit.
So the film incorporates climate change into the plot, and Smith explained, quote, "That's one of the things that we kind of tapped, and it's true. I talked to so many storm experts, tornado experts, storm chasers, and rode around with some. Even the tornado season itself, because of climate change, what used to be a tornado alley going through a certain stretch, it now extends so further east, and it's moving across, and the dates are wider, and the numbers are higher, and the storms themselves are more violent. So we did use elements of that. We did use elements of that just to shine a light on it as well, the causes and effects of climate change." End quote. Jimmy Chin, Elizabeth Char Vassar Haley, Dan Trachtenberg, and Travis Knight were all considered as directors before Lee Isaac Chung was ultimately hired. Listeners may recognize him as, of course, the director for Minari. Filming was originally going to take place in and around Los Angeles, but director Lee Isaac Chung, who had grown up in the Midwestern United States, insisted that the film should be shot on location in Oklahoma. On an estimated budget of $155 million, principal photography commenced around Oklahoma City in May 2023. In what is increasingly becoming unusual, it was shot on 35mm film. In an interview with Slash Film, Chung revealed that the studio would have never allowed this if it were not for the intervention of executive producer Steven Spielberg. In July, filming was suspended due to the 2023 writer's strike. Production resumed in November. Filming was to take place at Prairie Surf Studios for 40 days and in Metro Oklahoma City for 50 days. Other locations include Chickasha, Okarche, El Reno, Spencer, and Cashion. The film is a standalone sequel and is a joint venture production between Universal Pictures, Warner Brothers Pictures, Amblin Entertainment, and the Kennedy Marshall Company, with Universal and Warner Brothers switching distribution positions, with the former taking North America and the latter to foreign countries. At the time of recording, the film has an impressive 77% Rotten Tomatoes score. And when we think about the box office, it's exceeded expectations. It was originally projected at 40 to 55 million at opening weekend, and due to its impressive Wednesday and Thursday releases, we actually have projections at 80 million for the weekend, and that is Twisters.
Well, before we get into the discussions of why wasn't this better, we'll take a quick break as we hear from one of our sponsors. Today's podcast is brought to you by Sprizzy. Looking to skyrocket your YouTube channel's growth? Meet Sprizzy, your video's ultimate matchmaker. Their tailored ad campaigns connect your content with viewers who are already looking for videos like yours. With Sprizzy, you're not just getting views, you're gaining subscribers who are genuinely interested in what you create. Are you ready to boost your reach? Visit Sprizzy.com today and let's launch your channel to new heights. Sprizzy, the smarter way to promote your YouTube channel.
Yay.
Okay, I want to start with a question. Is this the most unnecessary sequel ever?
It's definitely a curious one. Like, out of all the 90s films that people have nostalgia for, I could see it. But at the same time, I don't think that it has the cultural impact staying power that would have called for a sequel.
I didn't think so either.
Yeah, I didn't think that it was the most unnecessary sequel, but this felt like, I understand that it's a legacy sequel, but I don't know. It felt like more of a reboot than anything, to be honest with you.
I'm glad you brought that up, Zion, because I was thinking about this too. This is not really a sequel at all. It really does feel like a rehash of the first one. I don't even mean that in a bad way. I think this improved a lot of things that the first one didn't do that well. If you asked me 5 years ago, would you want to see a Twister sequel? I would have said absolutely not. But after the Top Gun Maverick sequel, I'm kind of open to these types of films more because that I was so pleasantly surprised by that, that I'm
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm just much more willing to see a type of sequel like this now.
Yeah, it was definitely, and I told you I saw both movies in the same day, so Twister and then Twisters. Night and day response for me. Went from watching something that I did laundry on to watching something else, and I was just like in this. I don't know, like it was wonderful. I was like, man. Now I had issues with it, but for the most part, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, and we've talked about sequels on the podcast, of course. Now, Zion, would love your take. What would you say makes a good sequel compared to like a bad sequel?
I would say a bad sequel compared to a good sequel. A good sequel for me, most of the cast has to come back. The chemistry has to be there. The vibe has to be right. The story has to make sense. When I talk about good sequels, I often bring up, I don't know, like a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but Sister Act 2 is such a good sequel. Even though the
Hmm.
stakes are a lot lower in the second one, the chemistry that the cast has is infectious, and you can't really help but just to want to be involved. I would say what makes a bad sequel is really the story and the cast and what they're trying to
Hmm.
do, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
That would be it for me.
no, I agree with that. In the respect that the story is so key, the writing is very important. I think that a lazy sequel just rehashes too much of the first and is a little lazy with the story and just kind of hopes to ride the coattails of the first film to be able to be successful, right? Whether
Yeah,
that's using the same jokes, the same references, maybe it's almost seems shot for shot, in which case it's just lazy and boring.
yeah.
Just to even like think of like the Star Wars sequel films, or the sequel films.
The best example I can give you is the initial Scary Movie film and then Scary Movie 5.
Yeah,
You have something that was so great, did comedy so well, and then years later you get something that is just is disrespectful to society and
yeah,
everybody in it.
yeah. And there's a really, an example that we talked about really in one of our early seasons was Incredibles 2 compared to the first Incredibles.
Oh, I didn't like that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's a fine movie, but as a
Mhm.
sequel, didn't really move the character story forward in any way.
they could have kept it. I would have taken
Yeah.
Finding Dory too, to be honest with you.
And when I think about this film too, Twisters, such a passion project for Bill Paxton. There's a lot of, I guess, personal connection to the film for him and pushing it forward enough so that the film eventually came out, that there was a lot of care put into it. And I think that in that sense, when there's so much passion to put the film out, like I have to respect that, even if maybe there wasn't an audiences clamoring for it.
I was stunned that there was no real connection to the first film at all, other than the
Mm.
Dorothy cameo that you get in
Right.
the very beginning.
And then the little, yeah, the little sensor things.
Right, right. But other
Mhm.
than that, the whole time I was in the theater, I was expecting at least some actor from the first one to show up.
Yeah,
I guess
and
it would have been Helen Hunt because, I mean, unfortunately, Bill Paxton's dead.
yeah,
Philip Seymour Hoffman's dead.
personally, like, and that's why I actually really love that aspect about the film. It didn't have to lean on that to be a proper sequel, but at the same time, this felt like a Twister sequel.
Yeah, it felt like it was its own thing. It stood by. It reminds me. I don't know if you guys ever saw 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's
yep,
exactly what it reminded me of because it was something so different, but it's something within the universe that does connect both films. But it's not like in your face, like, oh, I was in the first one.
exactly,
Is that the one
exactly.
where they're in the bunker?
Yeah,
Yeah,
John Goodman's
Yep.
keeping
Yep.
the main character in a bunker.
Much like this, I liked that better than the original Cloverfield.
agreed.
Mhm. And
Not a big
there,
found footage fan.
so there was a lot of leaning on new talent in this film, improved writing, and at the same time capturing really the spirit of the first film. So this really feels more like a spiritual successor, as they usually say.
Legacy sequel.
Right. Or
Ah,
for video game fans, I'll just say this: it's the video game BioShock. It's a spiritual successor to System Shock on the PC. It's a really deep cut for video game fans.
I believe you.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned the writing, Anton, because that's the biggest improvement for me over the first film. This had none of the cheese factor that the original one had.
None.
That's the thing I like least about the first film is just the awful dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And they were wise to not do that here.
No, they had other cheesy things they decided to put in.
There's a couple cheesy moments in this.
But I would rather take that over some of the stuff from the original. It was a drastic improvement with the writing. The writing, it didn't, I don't know, the first one, I don't know what they were smoking, but
It's awful.
yeah.
Yeah, there was some character development in the first one. There was major character development in this one, which I appreciated.
I gotta go. We got cows.
You know
I gotta
what?
call you back.
You know what? I just what really upset me about the first one's dialogue was the fact that you were texting me like just lines of the movie, and I thought you were cracking jokes, and then like 5 minutes later they were say the exact same thing verbatim, and I was like, oh, he wasn't kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that storm's gonna be here any minute. It's already here.
Yeah,
Won't you
Ray
put her
Charles.
in charge? It's another Bill Paxton movie.
Mhm.
Do you think the original would be a hit today?
Not with
Shot
that
like-
script.
Like shot for shot.
If that film was released today, I don't think it'd be a hit at all.
No, and
No.
I don't think it would have been greenlit today the way it
would
was
be
made.
as successful as Geostorm.
Now, but I'd argue this that film is like what, over 25 years ago. So there's a lot of films then written the way they were that wouldn't have been greenlit today.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now let's take a film from 9 years ago, San Andreas. It's a disaster film with The Rock.
oh God.
Would that be greenlit today?
Probably so. You know, Dwayne, it's nothing for him to get a project greenlit.
Yeah, but not. I don't think written exactly the way it was. Probably there would be some changes.
Oh yeah,
I hate that
absolutely.
movie. I hate that movie so much.
Yeah, if you told me that San Andreas featured The Rock shooting a machine gun into like an earthquake fault line, I wouldn't question it.
That is comedy.
I just got chills thinking about that.
This summer.
Man, he is just so bad.
Oh well, we didn't get him in this one. We actually kind of got not big names.
No, I suppose Glenn Powell is going to become a movie star very shortly.
I think we had quite a few or a couple names in the film that are going to be bigger coming soon, and then no disrespect to Anthony Ramos.
Not a movie star.
Wait a
We'll-
minute, we
we'll
ain't gonna
see.
disrespect Anthony Ramos.
Yeah, well
He's fine.
yeah.
I wouldn't trust him to carry a movie himself.
Oh no, not by. He needs some help.
Yeah,
He
he's a character actor.
He needs a good supporting cast. He probably could carry like I could see him doing like a period piece drama, but you know,
He was fine in The Heights, but
I didn't watch it.
yeah,
Was it good?
it's not great, but it's not as horrible as its box office will lead you to believe.
Well, we give that movie a box office pass because it came out during the flesh-eating virus.
Oh, was that a COVID victim?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Warner put it in theaters and on streaming at the same time.
I had absolutely no idea who he is going
Yeah.
into this movie. So No
with
bias.
I'll give a shout out. My wife's a music teacher, big into musical theater, so of course I've heard of Anthony Ramos. Hamilton, like
Oh, I turned Hamilton off. I think I made it a good 25 to 30 minutes, and I realized like they didn't stop to talk at all. They just sang
Yeah.
everything, and I said mentally, I can't do this today.
can't do it.
I
Not
have a
today.
Hamilton question for you both. So that is kind of famous for being one of the highest rated films on IMDb. Is that an
Okay.
actual film?
I wouldn't count
No.
that as a film. That
Right?
that should not count.
No, it's
No disrespect to it. I'm not trying to denigrate
I'll-
Hamilton because I think it's a great theater production, but it's a theater production.
No, I would like to disrespect that IMDb rating. Like that's not a proper that's not a proper weight for that kind of film.
no. I think I don't know. Well, no, it's not a film. I think the reason why it would be classified as a film is because they had shot it and Disney had planned on putting it in theaters. And then the pandemic happened. So they said, well, we'll just throw it on Disney Plus.
That makes sense. I had no expectations for Twisters at all, especially when I saw it on the trailer that said from the producers of Jurassic World. I'm like, is that a good thing?
Well, the first Jurassic World was lit. The other ones, they can die. But no, I understand that.
Actually, I'm kind of with you, Zion. I actually did
Yeah.
not mind the first Jurassic World.
Yeah, the other ones.
So,
Is the second one you find out that they cloned a little girl?
Yeah, and then the third one was when basically all hell is broken loose on Earth.
I didn't even bother with that one.
Save your time,
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're good here.
man.
So the next one's going to be called Twister 3, right? Because we're going in the same vein as Aliens, right?
Yep, that's
So
fair.
then Twister 3, Twister Resurrection,
Mm-hmm.
Twister versus Earthquake, maybe, or Hurricane,
But it
Mm-hmm.
and
can't
then
be
Twister
Twister.
versus Earthquake Requiem.
It has to be Twister, but instead of a E, have a 3. So you know
That's right.
that just so you know.
Just right. And then there will be the prequel film, a la Prometheus, but it'll have a different title. They'll workshop it.
And they got to set it in the 50s and have Bette Midler play like a wife on the homestead, and then a twister just happens.
And
I'm
that's the
telling you.
first ever Twister.
How the like creatures from other planets invented twisters.
Exactly.
Then we'll have Godzilla versus Twister. It's gonna be like a whole little just smorgasbord of Twister sequels, and I'm ready for it.
They could do one called Twister Fujita, where you see how they invent the Fujita scale.
With the first ever F5.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So how do they do it? There's like a F1, right? They're pretty small, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. What comes after? It's like F2. Is that how they do it?
Yeah, sequentially, there's 2, then of course there's F3.
F4. That'll relocate your house pretty good. What about an F5?
Only on TNT Plus. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming.
Has anybody ever seen an F5? Only one of us.
Yeah.
But
Wait, do you remember the line, Zion, from the film? When she asks about an F5, and the one guy just goes, "It's the finger of God."
that's I think that's when I just started mopping my floors at that point, because I realized this is just a shit show. Y'all, nah.
So that's like it's interesting writing, and I actually, even as cheesy as it is, we saw the intensity of it, and it kind of furthers like the scariness of it, of like people will literally stop eating and stare at you if you even mention it. It's like it's almost the equivalent of saying like Dumbledore around wizards, or sorry, the equivalent of saying Voldemort around like other wizards.
I would say it's memorable dialogue, but
yeah,
it's
but
bad.
it's very cheesy.
It's
But,
unrealistic dialogue. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that they all react when she asks about an F5, it's like, obviously, if you don't know anything about tornadoes and you're talking about F2 and F3, and then you mention F4, someone is inevitably going to ask you about F5, and they're all like,
And then nowadays, you mention F5, they're just going to think of Brock Lesnar using his finishing move in the ring, because that's society today.
I think
Yeah.
the owner of that house should be really lucky that she didn't ask about F6, because Bill Paxton would have thrown his plate against the wall.
But now, with this film, clearly an F5 opened the film, right? But they really don't make that.
Did you notice
like a
they
big
call
thing.
it EF5?
I didn't pay as close attention to that. I just heard the F5 and I was like, oh, okay, we're going right into the deep
For
end.
whatever reason, they changed it in this movie to EF5. Now, I have to admit, I am not an expert on the Fujita scale.
Right.
And I did not Google that because I didn't care that much.
There was enough meteorologist and like science jargon in the film that I don't know anything about it, so they could have just made anything up. I'll just take it.
We're going to move into the everything else discussion part of this. This is pretty loose.
Mm-hmm.
We already answered the part about, like, does this film actually give us twisters like the title suggests? Yes, it does. I would say just based on that alone, it is a success. There are multiple twisters in this film. And if this film has more than one twister, then I think the title is earned.
Right? There was even the twins scene.
Yes, we did have twins.
Jesus, help us.
We're storm chasers. It's what we do.
No, you make grilled cheeses and feed them to the homeless. Yes, that's what you do. It's just...
Well, they're benevolent social media storm chasers.
Yeah, that was probably for me like one of the cheesiest things that I was just like, oh, of course these YouTubers feed the homeless.
The ragtag group of storm chasers who are dressed like the Lost Boys from Peter Pan.
They look like they were getting ready to like go to Burning Man.
All of them look disheveled.
The Lost Boys. Yeah.
Like the Lost Souls. Shit.
They were actually just saving money. They were then gonna film scenes for the next Mad Max film right after that.
I'm telling you, they're just... all of them genuinely piss me off, I think. But I did appreciate the plot twist in this movie. I was like, okay, that was nice.
Was
Instead of,
it?
I mean,
The good guys actually being the bad guys, and the annoying guys actually being having hearts of gold.
yeah, I was like, you know
Storm
what?
chasers with hearts of gold.
I'll take that over what I got initially with those damn Dodge Caravans. I will gladly take that.
No, that's fair.
Well, it was more complex in this film because the bad guys were driving white vehicles.
Hmm.
I thought that was pretty good twist on their part.
Ooh.
And they were pickup trucks. They weren't Dodge Caravans.
Yeah, that's true.
Dodge was
That's
probably
true.
disappointed because we had the old school red Dodge Ram, which was driven by, what's his name? Not Tyler Durden. Tyler Owens.
Tyler Durden.
That was a badass truck with what are
Yeah.
they, like the drill things that sort of mount the truck in place?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Do they
Mhm.
actually have stuff like that, or is it
I don't know, but I think that's a cool technology. I want it.
put
Makes
it
you
on my
wonder why
car?
other people's cars didn't have that. Probably would have helped some people at that motel. Like 90% of the time, it's not even a real tornado.
Look, I don't think that's necessarily like an add-on that you can get at the dealership, or maybe you
No.
can.
Maybe you can out in Oklahoma. I don't know.
I don't know.
If you're a storm chaser with a heart of gold, please write in and tell us.
Man. The funniest scene in this movie to me was the scene where they're at the motel and like the twister starts happening and like the mom, I guess they're all like hiding in the pool and a bus or something like blocks the twister from getting them.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
twister is obviously over and she goes, "Is it over?" Somebody in my theater shouted, "Bitch, yeah, it's over." I lost it. I was like, oh my goodness.
I think that was my favorite scene because Tyler was actually scared, Glenn Powell's character.
Mhm.
And I think that sold it for me. The fact that, like, this guy's scared, it's like, oh, it's bad.
Yeah, the film was just you always knew who was going to get taken out by the twister because he just didn't follow instructions. So this film was also just a PSA for people of like, make sure to follow instructions when tornadoes are going on.
I thought it was not entertaining, but no, it was kind of entertaining how everyone they encountered had no idea what to do during a tornado, despite the fact that they all lived in Oklahoma. They're like, we got to tell these people to get inside. It's like, surely they've all experienced a tornado before.
As soon as she said 9 times out of 10, it's nothing, I was like, she's going to get sucked into the tornado.
But the one time, it's like, maybe better safe than sorry.
It's like, lady, did you look outside?
Well, that was the thing, right? They had windows and like there was like very obviously a tornado going on, but it was imminent ruinage. To quote Philip Seymour Hoffman from the first film. He's gonna rue the day he came up against the extreme. It's the extreme, man.
What the fuck?
Awful.
And as I texted you, Pat, and I was Zion, I don't know if you knew this. The gentleman in the motel complaining about his room, that's Bill Paxton's son.
Yeah, I saw his son was on the cast list. I just didn't know who he played.
Yeah, he just played the gentleman who was complaining about the motel room with his wife. They get into the truck and drive off into the tornado.
Oh yeah, he was the bastard complaint. I can't even get a soda. Why are you worried about a fucking soda right about now?
Oh, he was extreme. There's no mention of the suck zone in this film. That was a missed opportunity.
Not the suck zone.
We got Jonas.
Yes,
we had a Jonas in this film.
Who is probably going to be a bigger name coming soon as we get to James Gunn's Superman release, because that, of course, is going to be the new Superman.
David Cornswet?
Yeah.
Cornswet?
I don't like that name.
David Cornswet. I much prefer David Cornsdry. Sorry.
Are we sure that's going to be a success? That's not a movie star name.
He looks, I mean, he has the chiseled jawline that we would expect of a Superman, but
Cornswet?
That don't even sound appealing. Like if I saw
I don't even enjoy saying that.
You need I wonder what his middle name is, because he could probably go by that instead of Cornswet. That sounds, I don't know. Maybe the studio will make him go by something else.
Did they owe him a favor or something? Like, who let him in?
I don't know. He did enough extra work on those Tyler Perry sitcoms, and they said, well, you paid your dues.
Yeah, he's basically the bad storm chaser, right? What's his character's name? Scott. It's not as memorable as Jonas, you son of a bitch. You stole our idea. He's a nightcrawler. He went and got himself some corporate sponsors.
Sponsors.
His character was VC consultant. Storm Chaser.
I did crack up when he yelled at Anthony Ramos. He's like, "Whose side are you on?" What?
What?
What are you talking
What?
about?
Yeah,
It's a
there was
natural disaster.
You work for a real estate developer.
yeah, interesting plot holes in the film.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk about that now?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
do
yeah.
it.
All right. I understand they needed to have some kind of twist, but I just didn't understand the 3 radar thing. Like, how does that help the real estate developer? Like, why would he invest in that? Because, correct me if I'm wrong. Bear with me here.
Mhm.
His whole scheme is I go to wherever tornadoes hit and I just buy up the land cheap from the people that lose their homes, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
how does the tornado prediction happen? Like, is there a competition to buy up the land? Is he trying to get there ahead of other people? That's what they never really get into.
They really don't.
They don't. They were doing what Oprah did, when they had like all that stuff happen in Hawaii and the entire internet was pissed off at her because she was just there to just buy the houses from people.
Yeah, there's I feel like with this one there was a lot of trying to lean into the science of it all that it ends up just getting written away as, well, it's because of the science of it.
Something.
Yeah, but I feel like not knowing what they were going to do with the data, it just, again, they never address it ever again. Nor do we ever see the big bad guy ever again. Like, they never address like him wanting to like undercut all the people that have been hit by tornadoes. We just kind of assume he's still doing his thing.
Oh yeah. Like there was no didn't he get left on the side of the road?
Well, no, that was a lackey. Like, I'm talking about the clearly the corporate, like, Midwestern villain with the bolo tie
And
who's
the
funding
mullet.
and who's funding everything. Like, they never go back. You never go back to him when clearly like he's the guy upstairs calling the shots.
Oh.
Just never address him again.
Yeah, no. Never addressed him at all.
He's so comically evil. He's like, "Don't worry, we gonna take care of you, your wrecked house."
I wouldn't trust him to hand my ass a glass of water. Like that's how mischievous he looked.
"Don't worry, I'm gonna cash you a check."
He was
Can't-
probably the closest to like a cheesy '90s villain.
Man.
He was basically Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah.
I say, I saw about the tornado.
Like, why are you talking like that? Do you need a lozenge, sir? Something wrong with your throat?
But he went to go to the store to find his lozenge, and that took the rest of the film because we never see him again.
But see, what got me
No.
with that character is he genuinely looked like he had people rummaging through the wreckage to find valuables. Like he's gonna like steal your things as he's like making you these false promises. That's kind of what he was, giving me as I watched it.
Y'all got a safe in there?
Well, I guess maybe if this was a more traditional '90s film, he would have gotten his comeuppance. He would have been driving in like a Ford Bronco with like actual actual horns like on the front as his like car ornament, and then he would have been pulled up into a tornado.
After being impaled by a piece of debris,
Yeah,
like poor Jonas.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I will say the opening for this film, it wasn't as effective as the opening for the original film. I think, and this might just be a personal preference, the opening for the original film, it was just something so like suspenseful about it. This one, I don't know, it was kind of weak, but as the movie progressed, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty decent.
I agree with you. The opening for me, I thought the movie was going to be awful because, when they're doing the found footage thing
Mm-hmm.
where she has
Oh yeah.
she's recording everything on the camcorder, I was like, please tell me the rest of the movie isn't like this. And thankfully it wasn't.
Yeah, as I watched more of the film, I thought like, okay, this film's a bit more intelligent than I originally thought. So I kind of think actually when you're watching that beginning and you feel a little annoyed by like either how naive they are, how kind of annoying some of the characters are in the opening cast, I think you're supposed to, in the fact that you're like you're convinced that these are kids that don't know what they're doing properly, and they're trying to work with a force of nature that could destroy them, and it did. And in that sense, like, I think it opened very like effectively because it shows you don't want to mess with nature, even if like you appreciate it. Like, they had no idea what they were doing.
What were they trying to put into the tornado? It was like Play-Doh or something?
There was something, what was that one line? It's made out of the same thing as diapers.
Right.
But does it like neutralize the tornado? I didn't really get what it did. Like,
It yells at the tornado harshly.
now the
And-
fireworks in the tornado, that was pretty cool.
because it needed to turn the tornado into rain.
Oh, yeah. Where they seed the clouds with silver or something. Sounds expensive.
Or something. And then that was a lot of whatever they had in those barrels. That was a lot of it. I don't know where they're getting it,
Yeah, they didn't address that.
but they had a lot of it.
They got it at like Party City.
The
Do
deleted
you have
scene.
any diaper material?
That's
Just lying around?
their deleted scene is going to every Home Depot in town trying to get enough of whatever they're putting in the barrels.
Bed Bath and Beyond. I appreciated the fact that there was nothing. Like, do you remember from the first movie where Helen Hunt's aunt, she's like, there's no warning. You got to get out there and fight this thing. You got to stop it. And Helen Hunt's like, I don't know how. It's nothing like that here for the most part.
Mm-mm.
They just avoid it.
Not.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they still make some dumb mistakes in this movie. What got me was, why are you guys at like a horse race, like a horseman or a bull, whatever type
A rodeo?
Oh, the rodeo.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't had coffee this morning, so my mind is all over the place. Why are y'all in the middle of a tornado? Oh, well, we didn't think it was going to come over here.
As
Like, so stupid.
as soon
It
as
seems like a bad idea, yeah.
as soon as you get the shot of like the woman on the horse like completely covered in the American flag, holding like the American flag, and it's just sparklers are coming out of it, I was like, the tornado's gonna hit this town.
Man,
This
and
is
they
gonna be
You think?
disastrous.
What was the name of that town? Universal Studios, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Wait, weren't they at a? Or am I thinking of the first one where they were at a drive-in movie?
The first
first
one was
one,
the drive-in. This
yeah.
was a theater.
Okay, that kind of pissed me off because my initial thought was, who is thinking about taking in a movie when there's a twister on the loose?
Well,
No.
that's a really interesting kind of connection though. There was like another scene with like a movie theater involved.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. They all hid in the movie theater in this one. At the first one,
Yeah.
it was the drive-in, but yeah,
There's a quote from that scene that I'm just shocked wasn't in every single trailer. It's where Anthony Ramos says, "This theater wasn't built to withstand what's coming." It's like, you got to put that in the trailer.
That's for sure. That is money B footage.
Yeah.
You know
the
what?
trailer.
The theaters, and I believe Cinemark might jump on this and start using that to advertise like their surround sound system. I would not be shocked.
They should.
I would.
I'd like a cut. Are you
Total-
listening, Cinemark?
Total aside, I was curious. Have either of you guys ever been to Universal Studios Florida?
No, sir.
So I haven't, but Pat, since you did you ever get a chance to ride Twister Ride It Out, the special effects ride?
Yes.
Was it pretty cool?
Wasn't my favorite.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it
Is it
wasn't
still
like
up?
the water world stunt spectacular,
Yeah.
But
And no, Zion, unfortunately it was replaced in 2015 with a different disaster film, or a different disaster ride theming. It's a Race
Oh.
Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon.
is that what replaced it?
Yeah, like I said, it's a disaster. So
Wait, what was that based on?
talk show host Jimmy Fallon.
Did they actually do that?
I'm like not even kidding. Like that is
Yeah,
literally.
that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
It's a motion simulator ride where you're following Jimmy Fallon through the set of the Tonight Show in New York. I'm like not again.
I'd take that over the Twisters ride because from the sounds of it, it really was lackluster.
I mean, I thought like looking at footage from the original Twisters
It was cool.
ride.
Yeah, it was
there's-
cool.
You get wreckage. You get again fun. I feel like Universal Studios, when it actually focus on like films and behind the scenes, that's always cool.
I feel like I was being a little harsh.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was definitely cool. I think my favorite
Yeah.
thing from that park was always the Terminator 3D
Yeah,
Battle Across Time.
yeah. We have that in the Hollywood one, and I've been to that, and that was really cool.
Yeah, is that gone too? I think
Oh, I really hope it's not. I mean, it's
the
been
one in
such-
Florida's gone.
It's been such a long time since I've been to Universal Studios. I thought they still had the ET ride. I thought they still had the Back to the Future ride. Nope, those are both gone. So
Miami Vice.
yeah, I
There was
don't
a
know.
Miami Vice, right?
There was a Miami Vice one. I don't
Sounds
know why,
cool.
but there was.
Sounds cool.
Because when you think of
yeah.
Miami Vice, theme park is not the first thing that comes to your mind. But
No,
I
not
wouldn't
at
think
all.
about Jimmy Fallon either. So what do I know?
I mean, oh no.
What did we think of the cast of this film?
I liked it. I really liked it.
I thought the cast for this film, they were more tolerable than because the cast from the original one, they were insufferable to me. Like everybody deserved to be punched in the face.
Well, let's start with the big star from the film. What do we think of Daisy Edgar Jones?
I thought she was fine. I thought her acting was fine. They actually gave her character some depth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she had some guilt to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
She had a mom to reconnect with. She had an Oklahoma accent to attempt.
She had tornadoes to tame.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine performance.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree. I didn't have a problem with her.
Yeah, a lot of cases there of course there are criticisms of a lot of big action films or sequels kind of leading towards female leads and then kind of questioning, is there enough being written there to kind of make it believable of like their strength or their ability to kind of carry the film. And I feel like here we have a really strong female character that was written really well.
The other lead, Glenn Powell, I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
Before this movie, I thought he was some kind of like animatronic, but he actually had two dimensions in this film. He impressed me. He's pretty likable without being arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
And they wrote his character with some actual depth. There was some nuance to his character. He wasn't just a cardboard cutout.
There was definitely an expectation from my end that it was just going to be a likable jerk, and he wasn't even a jerk. He was actually just a really good guy.
Yeah, he had a heart of gold. They passed out grilled cheeses to tornado victims.
Oh, yeah. They were. They actually were. I believe they handing out bottles of water and sandwiches at the table or something.
They sure were.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a grilled cheese. It might have been bologna. The world may never know.
But how selfless is Daisy Edgar Jones' character? She was like, I don't want the sandwich. Save it for another.
But I will take this personal pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
In a Vogue interview, Glenn Powell recalled a piece of advice that his Top Gun Maverick co-star Tom Cruise gave him. He said, quote, "If you want to make movies of a certain size and scope and scale, you have to figure out what can connect with everyone around the world in every territory," end quote. And Powell said Twisters checks off this box because, quote, "humans versus weather is a very universal idea. How powerless we really are in the face of these cataclysmic forces," end quote.
Very well put. I think that was definitely what I was getting from the film too. Just, you can do what you can to try to tame it, but nature will, for lack of a better word, will fuck you up. So
yeah, because what do we do with our fears? Ride them, according to him.
Now, did you guys notice what film was airing in the theater, or what was showing in the theater when they stepped in?
Was it Frankenstein?
Yeah. Did you guys get that connection?
The monster?
The monster.
I thought about it as humans trying to mess with nature and dealing with very cataclysmic results.
Because as we all know, Dr. Victor Frankenstein was a real estate mogul who was trying to take advantage of the impoverished. Wait, what?
Wait, right? No, he was trying to bring back to life a tornado.
Right, correct.
And it's alive.
Right, to control the weather. I have in my notes, how does Glenn Powell's character not realize that Kate's from Oklahoma? He keeps calling her city girl, but she's like very obviously speaking with an accent the whole time.
I think that was I kind of saw that as tongue-in-cheek, like, because she kept
teasing
insisting.
Her?
Well, because she insisted she was from New York, and I think he could see through it.
Oh, maybe I'm just dumb.
I'm from Yonkers. I don't even think Yonkers is a place. I could be wrong.
Yonkers is definitely a place.
Oh, well, see?
Yeah.
My discernment was right.
Right next to the Bronx.
There's even the film Lost in Yonkers.
That's right.
Jeez.
With these two characters, like, why can't they just hook up? Like, just stop hinting at it and just do it.
I actually didn't mind. It's like, okay, focus on her character development, her ability to overcome her trauma and, like, defeat the storm. And sure, there's a romance, but, like, maybe we'll save it for the next film. We didn't need it.
That's what got me with the two characters, because, like, there was such... The tension was really thick to a point where it was like, and then you get the ending, and I'm like, okay, so is everybody going to join the YouTube channel now? That's my thoughts.
I was rooting for them,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like they get together. I want to give a shout out to one of the most delightfully English-sounding names I've ever heard in my life, Harry Haddon Patton.
Yep.
He plays Ben, the English journalist who's tagging along with Tyler's crew. I like the actor. He had a really good role in the first two seasons of The Crown. He played the Queen's private secretary, Martin Charteris.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on Downton Abbey as well. So super, super English.
Oh, yeah.
So they hired a real, authentic English actor to play this English character, and
And he did a damn good job. And
he
this is coming
did.
from somebody who enjoys Downton Abbey.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You like The Crown, Zion?
I've never seen The Crown. I'm not a Netflix person because they cancel everything I get interested in, so I gave up.
That's
Well,
fair.
I recommend it. It's great. This is kind of like a Hallmark movie with tornadoes,
Yep.
It's a good
Yep.
way to
especially
put
with the
it.
soundtrack,
You
the
know what?
random
Yeah.
country songs they're just shoving in there.
All they needed was some Christmas trees and Hallmark Christmas movie at 8 p.m. Yep.
Why isn't there a tornado movie set around Christmas time? I feel like that'd be perfect with all the lights getting sucked up in the air.
That might be the sequel.
Well,
I think it is.
we just came up with a script for another $5 General film, so it's going in the
Yeah,
bin.
I'm telling you. Perfect idea.
Here's my idea for the sequel officially. There's an evil corporation who's trying to make storms deadlier to use as a super weapon.
Oh no.
This actually happened in real life. It's called geoengineering. The CIA tried experimenting with this during the Cold War. There's actual historical precedence for this.
Well, Dubai did that to their own people when they tried to produce more rain and ended up flooding the city.
That was like last year, right?
That was last year.
Yeah.
So soon enough, we'll have it more and more across the world.
I wouldn't be surprised. That actually sounds like a decent idea.
I can assure you it's coming. Wait, was that what the movie Geostorm was about, or was that something else?
No, Geostorm was all about having a bad time. That was what that movie
I
was
haven't
about.
seen it. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I really thought Kate's mother was going to be played by Helen Hunt.
That would have been perfect.
Right?
It would have, but like I actually do think it's better that they didn't kind of force a cameo. No, it wouldn't even felt like a forced cameo, but
No. It would have
leaned-
felt fine.
but they made sure to kind of have a new character, leaned on her genuine, like, I don't know, love for weather. I don't know any other way to say it. And just her connection and care for her town and people. Instead of kind of saying like, oh, it's innate, it's in her because of like her lineage. It's like, really, no, she's just some farm girl in the Midwest that actually also really appreciates tornadoes.
They don't just like tornadoes, they love them.
Oh,
So
God.
it's really a love story about tornadoes.
That's the real romance, yeah. Wait, all right. So if Helen Hunt was not her mom, how did they get Dorothy?
Dorothy was probably stored at the university that they were students at.
So they stole it.
Yeah, because they're college kids.
Right.
They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
One more thing, I thought that the handshake was cheesy. The one that she's always doing with Anthony Ramos.
Oh, the weird finger thing?
Yeah, and then they make a little tornado at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, holy
You guys,
crap. I
you guys
forgot
got
about that.
You guys got that? They like do the
Yeah.
finger thing and then tornado.
Right.
Oh,
Because remember, Anton, you're right. They don't just like tornadoes.
They love them.
That's right.
only on TNT. I'm telling you, it's coming.
The Hallmark Channel.
Man, this movie, I just...
I liked it. I know we're clowning on it a little bit, but I really liked it.
I really enjoyed it, but when you pick apart like the little like cheesy nuances there, it is pretty funny.
Yeah, but I think like that's kind of the fun of it, and I feel like there's a genuine excitement to these kinds of films because there's a lot of care and fun put into it. Like I think genuinely they're like, let's come up with a fun little like handshake that'll be cheesy that ends with a tornado. It's like they didn't have to have a detail like that, but that's actually it's kind of fun. It's silly, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It was definitely silly. Well, that's it for my notes. I feel like we've conquered this movie. Yeehaw. Fireworks in the sky and tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
Zion, you're right. That was a cool part. I like the fireworks and the tornadoes.
Absolutely.
Wasn't as scary as the fire tornado, but I mean, what is?
Oh God.
What's the next one? Like there's just a shark stuck in the tornado. Oh wait,
I think that's the
that.
next level. Yeah.
I think we've seen that one, Sharknado.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the fourth movie, which is Twister Resurrection.
Not Twister Resurrect. Well, I really think they should do the first Twister, sort of like the first Omen, which I thought was a superb film that went under the radar. But the first Twister, you go back, I'm telling you, Bette Midler put clothes on a clothesline. Something's coming. And then, it's a fight for their lives.
We can wrap this up then and give our ratings. Zion, since you're the guest, would you like to go first?
Yeah.
You have the option. Do you want to give us a letter grade or rate this on the Fujita scale?
I'll rate it on the Fujita scale since we're honoring this film today. I would say I give it about an E3, like dead smack in the middle, not necessarily like pinnacle of cinema, but it kept my attention. It was pretty decent.
Anton, is it my turn or yours?
I think yours, Pat.
Okay. Does E3 translate to like a C?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, C plus.
Okay.
But then we have to agree: is a one is an F, and then a 5 is an A, because it's the
Yeah.
most destructive.
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense.
Yep.
I did not hate this movie.
Mhm.
I was pleasantly surprised by it because I really just thought it would be a complete waste of my time, and I don't think that it was. I liked the cast for the most part. It avoided all of the cheese factor of the original film. I thought the effects were good, nothing groundbreaking. I thought the pacing was pretty good. There wasn't any parts that I felt really, really dragged. I thought the second half of the film was more exciting than the first half, which is generally what you want in this type of a movie, right? A disaster movie. This movie's fine. I'm right there with you, Zion. I give this an F3, which equates to about a C. There's nothing bad in it, really, but I don't think that there's anything particularly groundbreaking in it that can really elevate it to that F4 B territory. It's fine. I think right down the middle, C for me. It's certainly not a film that I would ever pay money to see again, but as far as a theater movie goes, this is more or less the kind of film that you would want to see on the big screen. So I have to give it credit for that. But yeah, this movie's fine.
I'll start with saying I put this one at an F41. So F4.1. It's right there, like letter grade, like a B minus. And I feel like this was superior to Twister, and in so many ways. And I just really love the writing in this film. There's, like you, Pat, a strong appreciation on my end for disaster films. And I feel like one of the criticisms I have for disaster films are the main characters don't usually have like a character arc. We can see that in Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure. The main characters are just kind of on the get-go very, I'd say, clearly where they stand and what they're trying to do, like be the hero and like move the story forward. And I feel like in this one, I really saw the main character kind of go through this stage of reluctant to like accepting and like facing her fears, and then really using that to drive forward and like protect the people around her. Oh no. Did my mic just drop?
No.
Oh, we're good? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. But I feel like at the end of the day, even watching a disaster film like this, I get reminded why these kinds of films are important, because it's always kind of a metaphor for life can be disastrous. Sometimes we feel like we can't take control, but we have to overcome it and just face those fears. So I think that this film told that, basically told that, but didn't do it in a way that felt like forced and down your throat. And I appreciated it. I thought it was a fun film, great film for the summer. So let's give it a B minus or a F4.
Wow, high praise.
Nice.
All right, well, that's it for Twisters. Thanks for tuning in for this last-minute weekend edition of Why Wasn't It Better? The next episode that listeners will be hearing is A Passage to India, Anton.
All right, well, let us get into gear because we're going all the way from Oklahoma to India.
That's right. Zion, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Zion.
No problem. I will see y'all when I see y'all.
In a couple days,
Very
actually.
soon. Very soon.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Well, take care. We'll see you next time on Why Wasn't It Better? Thanks for listening to Why Wasn't It Better? If you've made it this far, it's safe to assume that you like what you hear. If you have not already done so, please hit that subscribe button and become a follower wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you really like what you hear, you can contribute to our podcast monetarily and sign up for our Patreon. So whether you're commuting, chilling at home, or embarking on a nostalgia-fueled movie adventure, make Why Wasn't It Better your go-to podcast companion.